The Manhattan case. It's just one of four criminal investigations against the former president, where we've seen some major developments over the last week. In Washington, Trump's executive privilege claims were rejected. Former Trump officials, including former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, will be compelled to testify on January 6th. Vice President Mike Pence's testimony on January 6th is also still in question, for what it's worth. Arguments were heard this week. Trump also lost an attorney-client privilege argument. His lawyer in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case had to talk to a grand jury on Friday. And then there's the case on election interference in the state of Georgia, where the DA is likely to decide soon whether to bring charges there. Joining me now is the former U.S. Attorney from the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara. Preet, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you. Let me start with what we just heard from Mr. Takapina. At the end of the day, would this be an easier case in federal court?
I don't know. Obviously, the Southern District of New York, my former office that I ran, chose not to bring the case. But what was interesting to me about your exchange with Joe Takapina, and I've seen him do this on many occasions, and we had a melange of Republicans saying, no crime here, nobody would ever charge this case, it's unseemly, it's irrational, it's never happened before, but it did. It happened with respect to Michael Cohen, who was not only charged with this type of crime, this particular crime, and he thought it was a crime, pled guilty to it. His lawyer thought it was a crime, allowed him to plead guilty to it. The prosecutors in the Southern District of New York thought it was a crime. The judge accepted the guilty plea, thought it was a crime. So you can argue about whether or not it's appropriate to bring such a case. You can argue about the optics of it. But the idea that this is unprecedented is just false. It's just wrong.
Look, you heard his case. He feels as if there's not. And look, the campaign finance cases have just not been easily prosecuted. Yep. Look, we know that. Whether it's Bob McDonnell in Virginia, John Edwards, he brought up the John Edwards case.
I've had a few myself.
These are very difficult to win because the law is not clear. Is that fair? And if you're Alvin Bragg, you know, how hard of a case is this going to be?
So I don't know all the facts. I don't know what evidence they have in documents. I don't know what the witness testimony of the grand jury has been. I don't think anybody is saying it's a slam dunk case. I don't think anybody is saying that it's a open and shut matter. I think
I'll be honest. The way I hear it, it's like, wow, it sounds like we need a mediator.
Look, I think you had it exactly right. That it's a provable case. You have challenges, like in any case. You have issues of credibility with respect to Michael Cohen, who's going to be a key witness in the case. Maybe he'll be able to persuade a jury, notwithstanding the instruction of the judge, that insofar as even a little bit of the motive was related to personal embarrassment, that can't be a campaign finance violation. That's not the law as I understand it. That's not the instruction that the judge is going to give. But nobody's saying it's an easy case. I will make another point, though. As people attack Alvin Bragg and say he's doing this for political reasons, this is a person who has been attacked for a year, in one instance in book-length form, for not rushing to judgment, for not finding the easiest and quickest case to bring against the former president, even though we had respected prosecutors in his office, basically begging him to bring that case. He didn't do it. So this is the mark of somebody who is careful and deliberative, and we can have an argument about the merits and strengths of a case once we see an indictment with respect to the campaign finance part of it. Right. But you can't say about Alvin Bragg that he's rushing to the court to indict a former president on flimsy charges.
And look, I'm not asking you for sort of the political look, but as a former law enforcement official, I mean, look, what the former president did, however you look at it, you're Alvin Bragg. If he brings the indictment, it'll look like, well, he can't back down. If he doesn't bring the indictment, he looks like he's been bullied. I mean, in that sense, we're really seeing the law enforcement community get challenged here by the former president's tactics. How would you be handling this if you were handling it?
I don't know, but I'm retired from that business now by virtue of a filing.
Are you sure?
I'm retired for now. Look, I think the only way you can handle these cases, and you're going to get criticism whether you bring a case or whether you don't bring a case, is you just got to look at the law and the facts. And the evidence is, as I said a second ago, that's what Alvin Bragg is doing. You can disagree with him ultimately when we see what the allegations are, but he's not just willy-nilly going forward and bringing cases. And I know some people say it's unprecedented to bring a case against a former president, but it's also the case that there should be one standard of law enforcement, equal before the law. And if other people have been charged with a crime, and as I said, Michael Cohen charged in this case, he's the less culpable person if you believe a crime was committed. Some might argue it's a miscarriage of justice if Donald Trump is not held accountable for it.
Well, he actually has no more to gain.
Right.
There's no sentencing. He's already done. He's already paid for his crime. Hey, very quickly, the federal case where a judge decided attorney-client privilege doesn't doesn't happen very often, the significance of that, and where do you think this could be leading to?
Look, I mean, as we've been discussing, and as you ticked off a couple of minutes ago, Donald Trump faces jeopardy from, a number of sources. The Alvin Bragg case is just one of them. He has legal jeopardy in Fulton County, Georgia. And the federal matter being overseen by the special counsel is proceeding apace. And I think some people have speculated that it wouldn't be a case there, either Mar-a-Lago or January 6th. But this shows you that they're being aggressive. And this is now a second judge in different contexts that's found maybe there's a crime fraud exception and that attorneys and Donald Trump were conspiring together to commit a crime.
Is there ever an instance where these all these prosecutors should work together? Any grand jury sharing agreements or anything like that?
You can have that. There's no overlap, as I understand it, between what Alvin Bragg is doing, the Manhattan DA, and what the Justice Department is doing. There may be some overlap between what the Fulton County DA is doing because it relates to election interference, and obviously January 6th was about the big lie in election interference. My guess is they're not really sharing too much because it's a local prosecutor. You want to keep those lines separate, but that would not be unusual.
And wouldn't be unprecedented. All right. Preet Bharara, former U.S. Attorney from the Southern District of New York. Always good to get your perspective on it.
Thank
you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.